So let me just set the stage on this next session, layout design, feature enhancements. I like to consider this kind of like a best of. You know, I sit in on quite a few webinars, micro learning sessions, whether I'm learning a new tool or tapping into different training philosophies and technologies. And I tend to gravitate towards the ones that give me a lot of different small snippets of information very succinctly and very quickly. And then I get to choose, you know, kind of pick from those which pieces are most important to me. And then I can digest and dissect the ones that are most important to me. So that's what I kind of consider this session for you guys. I mean, it is centered around the concept of your layout designs, using macros, using macro modifiers, because those are ultimately could be part of your design. I'm going to be going into the calendar helper at first to show you guys how to use that really simple and very slick tool. And along the way, I kind of have included some blasts from the past, because I've worked with, well, I work with you guys frequently, and you know, we commonly hear something about DP2, and I say it all the time, and I know you guys do too. And we say we've never seen that before, or oh, I never knew that existed. That happens all the time in DP2. You know, to really no one's fault or problem or issue. Sometimes features and functions don't make our what's new list. Sometimes we don't read the what's new list. Sometimes we don't know what it means on a what's new list. Sometimes we don't have an opportunity to work with a trainer or sit in on a micro learning session to really get the full big picture of what's new. So the only reason I'm going to sprinkle in this session some kind of did you know kind of design features from the past is because I've recently heard it when it comes to some things. Oh, I never have ever known that that existed before. And we also say this about DP2. Well, if you never knew it existed before and it's brand new to you, well, you can go and tell your team that it's like brand new functionality because maybe they never knew it existed either. So again, you guys, I thank you for your time. I'm going to go off camera and I'll zip through just a few slides here in the PowerPoint, and then I'll bounce over to DP2 and we'll make good things happen there. So let me just bring up some calendars here. That's the first layout design feature I'll cover. And then this is kind of an example of the variety of other layout design features and enhancements. Some are new, some are not, but a good opportunity to start the conversation and make sure you guys are aware of some good things. So first of all, this 12-up calendar on the left, you see some different design elements going on, like this 12-up calendar does not have any rows and column lines for the calendar, where the individual calendar pages do. The sky is the limit when it comes to designing these calendars. We think we've covered most of it, but I can tell you guys this, we've only worked with a couple of you, literally only a couple of you with this calendar's design tool. The couple of you that we have worked with, you've clearly told us that this changes everything for you with your calendar's designs from year to year, and how your customers can order a calendar that starts in the month of, you know, March or April or May or June, and everything is dynamically created based on that beginning month or that starting year or whatever it is that, you know, you want to open up to your data to feed into the system to drive that particular calendar design, whether it be a 12-up or a 12-page book calendar. So we've only heard from a couple of you though. So we know that this has great potential. You've told us that with this design tool, this calendar helper, you no longer have to manually finesse your jobs when they come in for a starting different month or different parameters or other variables, that you've automated everything, and ultimately it's saving you a bunch of manual labor. But we've heard it and we love hearing it, and we're so glad that it's helped a couple of you. But we're kind of at a point here with this tool as well that maybe you just haven't had a chance to implement it. We know many of you are coming up on your season where you will have an opportunity to upgrade and implement these things. And again, we want you to get there and try it and implement it and let us know how we can continue the great momentum and what can we help you with that the tool is not already doing for you. So let me start there in DP2. I'll go through designing this 12-up calendar. It's really easy. This is one of those tools where all I have to do, you guys, is point you in the right direction, and you're going to say, okay, I got it. Just let me, practice and try and do it, and then you'll follow up with us with any questions. Then after I do the calendar, I'm going to transition to this kind of crazy looking product on the right-hand side of my screen, where I have a whole bunch of different nodes, a whole bunch of different macros, a whole bunch of kind of topics that I'm going to jump to. Again, it's kind of one of those best of the best type classes. If you guys walk out of here with just a couple of pieces that are going to help you and save you time and ultimately save you money, awesome. If you walk out of this session with more than 2 new tidbits and pieces of information, then mission accomplished, because I'll just kind of go through things quickly, and I'm going to hope you pull out what you need to. So these are just a couple of things I'll talk about. The layout helper, there's a relatively new relative image crop that came about in 20.3. Drawing tool shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, those are not new, but I'll just point those out along the way. That's something that someone just recently said to me. I never knew those were there. So I went to Tom and I found out how long they had been there, because I really had no idea how long they had been there, and it has been, I don't know, many versions. But again, none of that matters, because if it's new to you, consider it brand new functionality, right, that you can start taking advantage of. Strokes can be implemented both inside and outside, pretty minor, but it's something to make you guys aware of. And I have macros and macro modifiers to share with you along the way. So here I am in DP2, same calendar that's up. I'll create this one from scratch to give you guys a feel, but much of what I'll be showing you on a 12-up calendar, certainly you can carry over into your individual page calendars, and you can tie those pages all together in a book product. You can drive the content as far as the month and the year on either your book product or your 12-up calendar. But just for example's sake, I'll concentrate on this one. Let me show you something cool before I'll transition to a pretty much empty one and build this. But I'm going to show these node boxes, and I think instantly it does a good job, you guys, of showing you the flexibility that you have here with these calendar designs. Everything is a node. Everything is a node. Now, it's not going to, the way I create these is going to be very efficient and very fast. It's going to create all the nodes on each month very efficiently and increment up from month to month. But the only reason I wanted to show you this sooner than later is that so that you know kind of under the hood what's responsible for all the variations that you might want to make on your calendar, is because everything is a node, and you know nodes, you know designs, you know that you can use fill colors and fonts and different strokes, and all of that is available to you on your design. So you can bring all of those different design elements to every single part of your calendar. These are set up to be starting year. This is designed to be fed into from an external system where your customers have the ability to indicate the starting month on the calendar. You'll see me do that when I design it from scratch. I'll really indicate that this is the node that drives this starting month. You can see June, and then the other months will increment up one from there. So this is the design I'm going for. I saved myself a little bit of time, you guys. I'm going to open up this design here. You didn't really need to sit there and watch me create these nodes, just the placeholders for the top half of the design. So I'm really going to start here with a right click on this design and create new nodes. This is a blast from the past. This create new nodes dialog box. This has been in DP2 forever. In fact, this was the very first way before DP2 composites, before the DP2 composite way came about, where you might have been very manually building image and text nodes for your composite layouts. Today, it's a tool that's awesome for your proof layouts and awesome for a layout like this. I have all the parameters in this dialog box. Take a screen grab of it if you want, take a picture of it if you want. I have all the parameters set up to start creating nodes at 8 1/4 inches down from the top. I'm creating image nodes only. I'm creating 4 rows and 3 columns for a total of 12. I'm not putting in any sort of default style. I want to show you how you could do that in the calendar helper, but you could have like a background or some style in here. So I'll just go ahead and choose apply. You'll see instantly what that does. So really nothing new with that tool, but I'll tell you what, this is a tool where sometimes we stumble upon it in training, and it's not out of the ordinary for someone to say, I didn't know that tool existed. I created my proof sheets very manually by doing one and then copying the same node over and over again. So all I did was right click on that to get to create new nodes, just in case that's new. I'm going to right click on the product. You saw Pat go here earlier to layout helpers, and calendars is one of the layout helpers, and then create month will open up this insert calendar month nodes, and this is where good things can start to happen. I'm going to indicate this node up here as the initial year node, and I'm going to indicate that this node, no, it gives you the node number when you select it, you guys, is the initial month node. So based on the value that's in here, as I design it, I mean, I'm really just setting it up as a variable. You know, your external system, your third-party systems can feed into that node if you're allowing your, customers to choose the starting month for their calendar. And then what I could do, I'm going to start in this first of 12, and I'm not going to change anything at first. I just want to, again, this is one of those tools where I can kind of point you in the right direction, and before not too long, you'll say, okay, I'm good to go, just let me go now. And of course, there's a DP2 help file that you can access here, and it's loaded with a whole bunch of tool tips as well. So let the tool help you, let the help file help you. It's always good when you guys have a chance to kind of try it on your own and put a little bit of time into it. And then, of course, call on us when you're ready and we can help you out. So let me just hit insert new node. I did that down here if your eye was not where my mouse was. And right off the bat, using the defaults, I see something I don't want. And that's, I'm going to zoom in on here just a little bit, you guys. I see that I got both, month and year as a header above that month. So this undo will do you wonders. Believe me, you'll rely on that a great deal. Here is the function to just indicate month. So I'm going to insert that again. And I like that. I'm going to turn off node boxes because we have different ways, you guys, for you to render these lines around your calendar. And we know your calendars, and they come in all varieties and all styles. So you may like this style where you only have your, day boxes around physical, actual calendar days that have a value in there. But if you wanted to design it differently, here's the stroke days row. And if I insert that this time, then all of the nodes have that stroke around them, perhaps for more of that balanced look and feel that you're looking for. You can also drive the size of that stroke, the color of that stroke, and the opacity of that stroke as well. I'm going to undo that again. And this time I'm going to come up here and choose a style. I know I'm jumping around a lot, but I like to kind of lead by example and just show you guys different design options instead of kind of going through here one at a time. This is kind of my method of madness for you guys, so I hope that's okay. So this time I selected a style there. So you can see the style in this case is giving my month node a background fill color. It changed the font. We have the ability to open up the style in a text editor. We have the ability to change the color. If you're not using styles, you have the ability to, drive your fonts that are used on your calendar within this font drop down. So options, options, options for sure. Let me show the node boxes again. I think it's helpful as I transition to the next piece of information I want to share with you when it comes to designing these. So let me actually insert that back for June. So remember, June is being driven, dynamically driven by the value 6 that's stored in this node up here, node 10,015, that I identified as the initial month. The tooltip on here is always reminding me of how I use it and what I share with you. It's optional, right? So as you can imagine, if I don't identify a starting month and that's optionally left out, then this calendar tool will just start with the current month will be the first month in the calendar. But if I come over here to the second node, and I'm using my tooltips here, you guys could see that I was on the magnifying glass. I hit the A on my keyboard to get to the selection tool. And I'm only this is one of the blasts from the past that you're getting in this design kind of did you know session, where someone recently said that all of these tooltips, or all of these keyboard shortcuts, because some of us are so used to using the mouse to come up here and click on one of these tools, but if you guys are not using the keyboard shortcut to switch between those tools, once you start using those, that becomes your second nature sort of creature of habit. So I just had somebody recently say they never use those. They think they remember, us pointing them out at one time, but they never took the plunge, right, and started using them. So they just kind of recently got reacquainted with them, and now they become their best friends. So for this one, I'm going to use this +1. All right, so this is my month offset. It's a delta offset relative to the initial month. That's the node that's selected. I'm going to insert the next node there for the month of July. You'll see that render in here. I'm still using the same, obviously, style that's in there, and you can keep going and going and going. I want to show you something. I'm going to close this.
Actually, Kathy, before you close it.
Yeah, I'm gonna open it right back up, but okay, go ahead. Yep.
Somebody asked a question. Right now, even though you're going to go past, I'll say December and into January, can the year show 2018-2019, or can it only show 2018?
Yes, it can show. It can show the first year and the second year just by implementing a macro in there. So let me call that into it. My DP2 is kind of behind the scenes here. Really great question. So a couple of reasons I wanted to close this and open it back up. Remind you where the calendar layout helper is. And I had been showing you guys how to undo a couple of times. And I wanted to show you that, you know, the undo won't always work for you. Like, let's say you have a design, you know, that's been there, done, saved, open, you know, I can't undo. Let's say I wanted to redo some of the attributes and styles on these months. So let me just finish this train of thought, and then I'll go up and show you how you can do the spanning year macros here. I actually have that on the other template, but it's a great idea to work it into this part of the session. So I want to show you how you can select the first node in this case, which would be the month title. I'm holding down my shift key and I'm selecting the last node, because remember guys, there's a ton of nodes in there, right? 60, 90, I don't know, I can't, there's a lot of nodes in this 1 month node. So that's a tremendously valuable tool, is to use your shift select range so that you can conveniently and easily select all those nodes to get rid of those if and when your undo does not undo the last operation. So, okay, let me transition to this one now, you guys. And if I understood the question, okay, I'm going to show you that these are relatively new. I can't actually remember when they hit the scene. But we have this first year of 2, and we have this second year of 2. When I'm combining macros, this is a creature of habit here. I have, and I could actually put a macro in here that called this the value out of this other node, but I'll manually put it in here for my second of 2 years. I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. I'll go back to first year, and then I like to use this field to kind of combine my macros together. And again, this is just a matter of preference. You guys might like to copy, paste, come back here, grab it, copy, paste. My preference is to kind of, you know, build it up here. I don't have to do all of it here, and copy that to the clipboard. You don't even have to highlight it, right? Whatever. That's another creature kind of habit that I see so many people take, and I do it myself, where we see it says copy to clipboard, but we waste that extra second, right? You know, selecting it first where we don't have to do that. So copy to clipboard, control paste that in, and those are the 2 macros that address that first year of 2, second year of 2. But if that did not address that question, so easy for your questions for me to get lost in translation. So if there's a follow-up to that, please, I don't want to move on until I've addressed that one with you guys.
That looks like I got that one, but another question has come in that asks if all months can be populated at once. So in your example, you showed how you created July from June, but could you create the rest in like a single stroke?
No, no, not that I know of, and I know I asked that question when this tool first came about. So if anything has changed, please, developers, let me know. But I do remember that not being possible to say select all 12, indicate, you know, that this is the starting month, and insert nodes. I don't know of a way to do that. Can anyone confirm that?
I can confirm you are correct.
Darn it.
You only asked me for that like 6 times, I think.
Only 6? Well, see, now someone way more important than I am is, you know, making that awesome suggestion as well. So believe me, I know I don't have much polar weight around here. You guys have a whole lot more than I do, so keep those requests coming, please. So in this case, I had removed those. I had indicated the next month. I think this is a good thing to see too. This dialog box does not retain the last settings that I had. So I think that's worth a shout out, because at first maybe I was hoping that it would have retained, but it's not a big deal. I mean, Well, no, I'm not going to say it's not a big deal because it's not really up to me to decide what's a big deal and what's not a big deal when it comes to your time that you have to spend on this. So that's entirely up to you guys to decide how to spend your time. So I think I have that set accordingly. I think I'm doing all strokes around those days. I think I use that same style there. I haven't even played, guys, with a couple of these changes, like the day text size, the positioning. I kind of like the positioning. I'll show you the next one. I'll make a couple of changes. So you can see the positioning is in the upper left. Let me do the next month here. Sorry, I'm kind of zooming in fast and furiously. I'm hitting an A on my keyboard. That takes me back to the selection tool. S would take me to the move tool. V would, I don't know what V did. Z would take me to the zoom tool. C would take me to the crop tool. And again, I'm just throwing that out there because they're really handy design elements as you're designing. And I know that some people are simply not aware of them, or you were, but you just haven't used them. So anyway, I don't want to belabor that, but I think it's really helpful to remind you of things like this. So if I increase this, again, what I have June, July, August, this will be September. I wanted to show you this center option just for example. So now you see those days within those day blocks are now centered so that you get to see what that looks like. You know what? I'm a definitely creature of habit. Absolutely. And Tom, I'm so surprised. You probably wanted to say, Kathy, why don't you just use the node boxes button that's over here on the insert calendar month tool? Because I can't tell you the times that, you know, he's reminded me to use the tools that he puts on there, or our developers put on there, that are designed to make things so much easier for us. But did you guys notice that I right clicked and did this show node boxes about 5 or 6 or 7 times before I'm pointing this out to you over here, that the developers, thank you, put this handy tool in there to show the node boxes. So I'm glad I remembered to show you that. Tom, were you just anxious to remind me to do that? No?
I was just dying to bring it up, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well, now would be a good time if you know, this is kind of where I don't necessarily go into all the tools that are here, but either if participants have questions, I definitely want to address those. Tom or Brian or Dave, if there's anything that you think I should mention in detail, please remind me of that here before I transition to the other product that kind of covers a lot of other design features.
Yeah, based on the questions, just to make sure this point gets across, that we're designing a layout here, and whatever you give it as a starting year and a starting month, it auto does all the rest of that stuff. So we're not creating one that starts with June, you know, and only does 2017, 2018. We're creating one that automatically relays itself out based on the data you give it. Like if you put a 5 in there instead of a 6, it should start with May. You will have to hit the preview to get that to happen.
Yeah.
And likewise, if it was a different year. So this is not something that has to be redesigned every year, or you don't have to create 12 of these, one for every starting month. This thing literally takes the data that you give it in the order item and updates everything automatically.
Thanks, Tom.
It's magic.
It is. It really is. And, you know, thanks to those of you that have implemented it and have made the switch from designing your calendars in a more manual way, we know that the payoff is there for you guys having this tool now to for your calendar designs. But that's up to you guys individually to determine, individually to implement, and we're here to help you. There's a micro learning recording session on the service desk page. You can get to all of our micro learning past recordings. We don't have a schedule posted yet of forthcoming micro learning sessions, but it's our goal to do that relatively soon. You guys are busy. We're busy back here with, you know, not only this program today, but our move to the new facility. So we hope to get, and we know it's summertime too, so we hope to get that schedule back up and running. And your recommendations and suggestions are always welcome. Please, you know, let us know what we can, what sessions would be of most value to you when it comes to our forthcoming micro learning sessions that are not yet on the calendar. So you can let us know. All right, are there any other questions to answer relative to at least this one calendar design example? Okay, let me just point out then that for your individual pages, for your 12-page calendar that you've put together in a book, very similarly, you could use a macro that looked up the starting month that you're storing in some field that your order feeder is feeding that starting value into. And then for each page of your 12-page book calendar, you could be calling, you know, in that starting month. So you could be looking in the same field that stores the starting month of 7 or 8 or whatever it might be, and that page would be relative to that starting value that you're storing in the database somewhere. And then all pages, of course, are, you know, put together in a book. I changed the icon on my book product, but that's what these are here, are books of the 12-page calendar. But same tool, same concept. In this case, you know, I might want the month and the year on the individual page, unlike the 12 up where I dropped the year because I had the 1 year. So this is actually looking in, this is the macro here, that looks in the book field, the book table, looks like a banner column, and, you know, that would be where you push, you know, you insert like the starting month and year to be called in. Okay, guys, well, if there's no other questions there, I want to switch to this other example so that in the next 10 minutes or so, I can share with you a lot of other cool features, some new, some not, some macros that are new, some macro modifiers that are not new. It's just kind of sort of a best of. So we wrote this, and I have some notes in here to kind of remind me of some of it too. Let me pull up an order where I have this friendly face in it. So this is the friendly face I'm using. This is the subject information that's relative to that image that I'm using to drive a lot of this content. So one thing that we have here in this example is a relative image crop. I'm going to go to Properties, and on the Crop tab, these relative values are being subtracted or added to the crop that's stored in the image node. So it's really our way. Over the years, you guys have asked us, is it possible to store more than one crop in the image table? And that's a difficult thing to do and manage and know which one to use. So we did write this for a particular use case that sort of handled that, but in a, you know, in a manner where the image node stores one crop, X, Y, width, and height, and then we use this relative image crop to, again, add or subtract these values based off the original crop. So what that means is that you could continue to crop the image, you know, to adjust the crop in the images table, and then this relative image crop would then, you know, offset and update based on the original crop. Certainly you could continue to offset the crop in the node as well. So let me show you that tool. That is in the products table. I'll just go to this product here and use it. It's a right click on the product icon, and it's this function here to open relative image crop. And what it does is it opens up the product, and then it allows you to drag the image, the test image that you would want to use, into this part of the dialog box, right? That automatically appeared there. And then it allows you to draw, you know, with a click, drag, and a draw, that relative crop. So you're doing it visually. You don't have to have those, you know, offset numbers. This is what places those offset numbers inside of the node. By default, you guys, we work with the first variable node in your product, but you could then copy those offset values from any node into another node. So if the same relative image crop also applied to other nodes on the page, that's when you might have to get into that relative image crop set of values that I was first showing you on the crop table. Now I have a lot of things going on, you guys. So when I select this and select this node, so again, this tool is allowing you to, you know, save these parameters, this relative image crop based on the first variable node on your page. But again, if you had to, you know, copy from here and paste those relative image crop values into another node, hopefully that wouldn't be a big deal. So we'd love to hear from you guys. We don't know many of you who have implemented this. We don't know if many of you knew about this. So again, please help us keep the momentum going. Is it helpful? Is it useful? Do you need it to behave or work a different way? We so rely on you guys to help us craft these. Even though we wrote this for one particular use case, for one particular customer, that doesn't always ultimately define how the tool should actually behave and how you're using it. You guys always help us to understand how it really works and behaves. Any questions about that? Okay, let me get to some of these other pieces pretty quickly then. What's this one here? Oh, Pat was talking about this one. She said I'd spend a little bit more time on some of these post-process. I'm using a couple of different post-process calls here. This one is really kind of cool. It's a new macro. I think it's somewhere in here I think this one's in, I can't even remember where some of this stuff is.
I think it's in lookup.
Order item.
Yeah, you know what? I put my notes right here. It's in order items, set keyword. Yeah, there's some other ones in lookup. I knew this one was in order items. Set any keyword for the selected node. We wanted to make sure you guys were aware of this because this does allow you to set any keyword for a node based on, for example, a property. Let me open up my properties box again. For example, like a sharpen faster, where let me go to that tab. I think it'll make sense to you. You know, there's no way for you to like call in, like put a macro on this tab that says, hey, look up my sharpen faster value in my settings table, because I always want to use this sharpen for, you know, products going to this printer or products of a certain size. And it would be so much easier for you guys to store a setting like that in one place rather than having to go into each one of your nodes, each one of your products, and update and make changes there. So For what this is worth, kind of keep it at a high level because we can help you with it. You can see how, in my case, I'm actually using a macro that calls in the value to find for the sharpen faster. So I'm doing some pretty cool things here, but I don't want it to get lost in translation. I just want you to say, hey, I think I can use this, and then follow up with us and we'll help you with the implementation. But it's a really cool macro for those instances where you can't drive the content on a particular node. It stores a value and you can't replace it with a macro. So keep that in mind for potential use and let us know if that's of value. This example over here shows you the inside outside stroke. That's relatively new. You've always had the ability to inside outside stroke. Now there's this both ability. This is another process after. This is the one that Pat was really referring to. You saw how she selected this when it came to inserting a layout into a node, like on a composite, where you want to pull in a whole bunch of school data, for example, that calls in images and text. So we've always had that ability. I think Pat said this too. You could drag a layout into a node and we'll say, hey, great, but you might have to offset your nodes because you're using different node numbers to now offset. So be careful of that. Inside of macros.txt, there are a few different post-process calls. I think I have that poised up here, you guys. I don't want to get too far off the beaten path, but Tom recently added these to macros.txt. They're not actually macros, but they're calls. They make these changes. You can insert a product into a node. You can insert an order item into a node. You can use the crop or fit parameter to either, I think the default is to fit, where you would use, you don't have to use the F to fit it. The default is fit, so you could use crop. And then there's an insert path to a node, because some of you store layouts outside, layout.txt files outside of DP2. They might not be in your database. So, you could call in an actual layout file. I know I'm running out of time here, you guys. There's some other cool stuff, mostly macros is the rest of this, and a reminder of macro modifiers. So let me go back to the macro assistant. This time I will go to lookup, because that's where some of these cool macros are. Look for new macros at the end of your lookup list. Well, this one's not there, I don't think. I think this one is in order items too. This is really cool. This is a macro that looks inside of the package columns of your subject information table. So for those of you that are defining package columns, customer products, their customer product A equals your 8x10 and your 5x7 and your 3.5 by 5, or whatever it might be. This macro expands to your package definitions. It's a really cool one. We know a couple of you requested it. We think it's going to have value for, the rest of you too, some of you. This is another one of those cases where you guys requested this kind of cool thing for your use case, but we wanted to put it into the system for the rest of you. This is one that says, if last name and first name are not null, return the value of some other field. And I know the use case in this was only print a password if the customer or if the student ordered, for example, a certain couple of products that reside in a couple of different fields. So that's a cool one. I know I'm running out of time, you guys, here. So let me just make sure that you are aware of these other macros. We give you a brief description. These use cases might be very specific, but again, we found value in them for a couple of you, so we put them in the system. This one says if subject field 1 is not null or field 2 is not null, well then follow the separator and then give me field 3. I don't know if I explained that very well. I'm really sorry. This one is cool. Many of you might know about this one. It's our prepend macro. This will be the last one I'll do, that basically says if there's nothing in the grade column, right? So if this column is empty, then don't give me the grade, prefix at all. So that one is kind of a blast from the past, but we thought we'd add it to it. I have a couple of other, macro modifiers in here. Actually, this is cool because you guys asked me about this one on the calendar, so I got to show you this one on the calendar as well. So with that, it's a couple of minutes after 3. We're supposed to have a break from 3 to 3:15. I'll start the video at 3:05, and then we're excited for what's coming next, and that's our labs who are participating in this call, sharing with you guys some awesome information. So sorry for going a couple of minutes over, but are there any questions I can answer to wrap this session up, you guys? Any questions come through at all, Sue?
Nope, we're all quiet.
Okay, guys, well, I know it was a lot of information. I really hope you pulled a couple of pieces out of that can be helpful and useful to you. One more time, I'll say it. Oh, I just noticed these cut marks too. There's a way for you guys to add cut marks. It's a system setting. So if that sounds interesting to you, send us a question about that or follow up with us. You have a system settings, and then your cut mark option shows up on your coordinates tab of your image node properties. Sorry, had to throw that in there because I'm zoomed in and I saw them. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Reach out to us. We'd love to work with you on a one-on-one basis. Enjoy your break, and we'll catch up with you in just a second. Thanks, everyone.